Thank you so much for uh, joining everyone. This session will not be repeated at 4:30. If you all will agree who are on this session, we will go on with the next set of things to discuss. Okay. So we will proceed with the flow where we were before. Okay. So I'll quickly share my screen just to you know. Okay. I think let's forget it. Let us start. So, okay. Rajesh, I have muted you. In case you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay. Thanks for joining. Cool. So, I'll quickly go through a quick refresher. How many of you are attending for the first time? So, I'll skip the recaps if not needed. Okay. Let me know. Anybody joining for the first time?
Yeah, yes, hello. Myself Rajesh Chavan. I'm joining first time.
First time, huh? Okay, Rajesh. Okay. I'll quickly go through the recap then. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you.
Sure, sure. So let us quickly go through what we discussed. So in the past, we have seen ITIL is all about service management. Okay. When we talk about ITIL 4, it's all about IT service management. So, when we talk about ITIL 4, there are different things that come into play. One thing that I forgot to mention in one of the last lectures also, there are different layers in any organization. I wanted to bring this up today because this is very important. So, what are the different layers in any organization? If you will go to any organization, there are two types of layers. Okay, just try to understand. Very important concept. This is very important from ITIL and more important from an understanding point of view. So, two types of layer in any organization. Okay, first layer, business layer. Okay, different business functions, business units like HR, finance, supply chain, marketing, procurements. These are called business domain, business layers. Okay, very important. Business domain, business layer. Any organization will have it. Okay, so this is the first type of layer that any organization will have. The second type of layer that any organization will have will be the technology layer. The technology layer's role will be to help the business domain and business layer. Okay, two types of layers. First layer is business layer, second layer is technology layer. I'll repeat. Business layer will make sure that all the important business processes and operations go on. However, the technology layer will support the business layer to ensure that the application development, the infrastructure, everything is being supported, and the product development, whatever is happening, is being supported. So, where ITIL comes into play? ITIL comes into play when we talk about technology layer, when we talk about the support layer, when we talk about supporting the business. Okay, so service domain is where ITIL will come into play, and in order to support the application, in order to support the products that the business is developing, and in order to make sure that the business keeps on running. Okay, even in some organizations, IT is outsourced. Okay, so there would not be a case, let's say there is a small organization for 10 to 15 people. It would not be a case that they would have 5 people supporting 15 people or even 2 people supporting 15 people. In that case, it is better for them to outsource it to a third party, so that in case of any issues, the third party comes in and help them with whatever challenges they are facing. Okay, two types of layers, very important: business layer, technology layer. Any questions, you can interrupt me. We haven't discussed this before, but this is very important from a foundational standpoint. Okay, so as I said, the scope of ITIL is only applicable to the service management layer, not to the business layer. Okay, let me be very clear there. Only to the service management domain and the service domain, ITIL will be applicable. That is where the scope resides. Then we discussed about product and service. What is the difference between product and service? So when we talk about any product, let's say a laptop, and let's say, so I'll take a small question here, and this question will make you all understand this concept. When, let's say, I'm trying to obtain 500 laptops from Dell or HP. So will this be a product or will this be a service for me as an organization? Anybody can answer this. Very tricky. So I would like you to answer this. And this will clear up a lot of concepts I am telling you. When I procure a laptop, 500 laptops from any organization, any big service provider, OEM like Dell or HP, will this be a product or will this be a service? And you have to justify your answer. Go on. Anybody, huh? If you say it will be a product, then you have to, justify why. And if you say it is a service, then you have to justify why. Go for it, huh? Anybody, even wrong answers are fine. We are here to study, huh? Don't worry. Shivkant?
Hello.
Yeah, go
Hi,
for
Love.
it. Yeah.
So you are going to buy a product from Dell, like a laptop. So the laptop will be the product, and the support and customer service is provided by any maintenance service uh, that will be provided by Dell. So it will be the service part.
Okay. Okay. But I will pay for the product, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Anybody who is supporting a different argument from what Shivkant just mentioned in terms of getting the 500 laptops as a service? Anybody? Okay. So let me make it clear. Shivkant said it very right. Most of the companies they will purchase 500 laptops or whatever the amount of laptops they'll purchase. Along with the laptops, they'll purchase a set of insurance. By insurance, what I mean is warranty, additional warranty for 2 years or 3 years in order to cover for the support. This is one model where a product can be purchased along with the service, additional service, right? The other model that comes into play is called a service model, which is also prevail in the industry. So how it works is I will buy the 500 laptops on a lease from Dell or HP, whatever, OEM. And I will not pay per laptop, I will pay for the duration for which I am getting that lease. This model is also there, right? So if I go for the second model, then I am not buying a product, I am buying a service from the service provider. Okay, try to understand this is very important. So if I am going for a lease, because in that lease I am not paying for the product, what I am paying for is the assurance that this product will work fine for me, and in case of any issues the service provider will support me, right? So this is a service, this is not a product in the second scenario. Okay, so when we say product, what do we mean by that? So when we say product, it's all about the ownership. Where does the ownership of the product lies? Ownership of any product lies with the uh, with the customer. Because let's say that I have bought this phone. I always give this example. I have bought it, so now the ownership is with me. Okay, I have bought a laptop. Ownership is with me. If the laptop has a liquid spillage, even the service provider will not replace it because they don't cover liquid damage. So things like that. When we own a specific thing, the ownership, transfers to the customer. Okay. So in that case, all the risks are associated with the customer. Okay. Now, when we talk about the different model, the service model, where I said that now I am leasing these laptops. In that case, the ownership remains with the service provider. In that case, whatever happens, I need a set of laptops to be functional for my organization. So it's the OEMs, it's the service provider's responsibility to make sure that happens. Okay, I don't have to worry about that then. Okay, I hope this is making sense to you all. Any questions you can ask me. Okay, then we discussed about service definition. The service definition is a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating the outcomes that the customer wants to achieve without the ownership of specific costs and risks. Okay, so what do we mean by this now? So service is nothing but a means of enabling value co-creation, where you are trying to co-create value with the customer in order to deliver the outcome that the customer is looking for. It may be a product, it may be a service which is coming out as the end result of that service delivery that you are doing. Okay, but customer still has to bear the service consumption cost in this case also, right? Let's say Google gives you a Gmail account, with a free email account and with 15 gigabytes of storage of Google Drives, where you can store all your stuff in the Google Drive as well as documents and all that. But still, you have to have a internet connection for it to work. So you have to bear the ISP cost, even if despite of the fact that Google is giving you free service. You can't simply log into that service without additionally incurring some of the cost. So this is called the cost that customer has to bear for service consumption. Okay, this is how it works. I'm going through it quickly. If anybody has any questions, you can ask me, interrupt me. Okay. So we also talk about service management. So service management is nothing but a set of specialized organizational capabilities which are needed to deliver value to customers in the form of services. What do we mean by that is service management is nothing but a set of organizational capabilities which are needed to deliver value to the customer in the form of services, right? So if a customer is coming to me, I, as an organization, as a service provider, should be able to deliver some specialty services to the customer. And these, specialties, subject matter expertise that I have is called my organization capability in order to support the customer. Okay. This is what service management is talking about. Okay. These organizational capabilities can be in the terms of people, your resources, can be in the terms of infrastructure also. For example, if you are providing infrastructure to the customer to host an application all, it again could be a organizational capability that you are offering your customer. Okay, so this is service management. Okay, so we also discussed about value. Okay, so value, whenever we talk about value will always be measured from customer's perspective, not from the service provider's perspective. So whenever we talk about value, it will be achievement of the outcomes from customer's perspective and reduction of costs and risks, from customer's perspective. If customer is not finding the achievement of outcomes realistic, and the customer is not finding reduction of any risks, then value will not be confirmed from the customer side, right? So we need to understand that value is subjective and it depends upon the customer's opinion. Okay. So we also discussed about how can we make sure that value is provided to customer. So whenever we talk about value, providing to customer, we as a service provider should have to understand what are the outcomes that the customer is trying to achieve, and how much reduction in the cost is customer expecting from us, and how much risk are we able to actually remove for the customer. So in order to do all this analysis, we have to go into the customer environment. We have to understand each and every process that he's going through, the entire flow of operations that he has, and where does our service delivery comes into play. So we have to understand this, okay, in order to truly assess where we are adding value or not. Okay. So value, now I'm starting from today's session. Value from the service provider's perspective will be measured in two ways. Okay. Earlier we discussed about how customer will perceive the value, right? Customer will perceive the value by three things. First thing is whether he is getting his outcome or not. For example, if customer has asked you to create a food delivery app, whether you have created the app or not. First outcome is that. Second outcome is it within the cost that he has provided you? Okay, and is there any benefit, cost benefit that he is getting? For example, if he tries to create that app by himself, let's say he's incurring $1,000 and he has given you $200, so he's getting a cost saving there, right? So second will be cost that he's getting a benefit out of. Third thing would be risk. Risk would be in terms of resources. Let's say that he hired 10 resources and 5 of them quit during the project, so he has to hire them again. A lot of risk is there, so that risk he has avoided by giving you the project, so he has avoided that risk also. So this is value perception from a customer point of view. Now I am talking about value from a service provider point of view. Very important, try to understand. So when we talk about value from a service provider point of view, two things come into play. First thing is utility. Second thing is warranty. Anybody would like to quickly, share their understanding around utility and warranty? Very important concepts. Utility and warranty. Anybody? What do you understand by utility? What do you understand by warranty? Anybody? Yeah? Utility and warranty. Basic understanding around these terms. What do you, understand when you hear about these terms? Utility and warranty. Okay, so let me explain it. Utility, okay. Utility, as the name suggests, utility is, utility is the basic definition of the service. What we are trying to deliver to the customer, what service or product we are trying to deliver to the customer is called utility. Whenever you hear the term utility, try to understand what is this that we are trying to deliver to the customer. Okay, look at the end result. Look at the end result. What is that we are trying to deliver to the customer? That is your utility. Okay, what service are we trying to deliver to the customer is a utility. And when we talk about warranty, when we talk about, it says how we are going to deliver the service. The how comes into play. For utility, what will come into play? For warranty, the how will come into play. You will get exam question on this for sure, at least 2 to 3 questions. If you will go for ITL 4 foundation exam, you will get question for sure for this. So understand this properly, okay? If you want to clear ITL 4 foundation, in between all the lectures, I'll keep on highlighting the questions which might come to the exam. So this question will come for sure, okay? Utility and warranty, at least 2 to 3 questions will be there, okay? So utility, what you are trying to deliver, warranty, how you are trying to deliver, okay? Utility is nothing but the definition of the end product, the end service that you're trying to deliver to the customer, the output. And warranty, you have to define how you deliver that outcome. So utility is also called fit for purpose. There is another term of utility called fit for purpose. I am sure that you must have heard of this before. Fit for purpose. The what? Okay. It should serve the purpose of the customer. It should have all the functionalities. It should have all the performance that the customer is seeking for, so that the purpose is met. Okay. And you define SLAs for the utility of a service that you provide. Okay. In order to ensure that what he is paying for, the SLAs are meeting that. Okay. So utility is what you will be going to deliver to the customer, the functionalities of the service or the product. Okay. So whatever the functionality you are offering the customer is coming under utility. Okay. So utility can be summarized as what the service does and can be used to determine whether a service is fit for purpose or not. I'll cover this with examples also after this theory. So to have utility, a service must either support the performance of the customer or remove the constraints from the customer. What do I mean by this? Is if you are trying to help a customer getting some output from the service, you should either help the customer in achieving his end result, or you can remove some risks from the process that the customer is going through. Okay, that is again a part of utility. Warranty. When I talk about warranty, warranty means the how, as I said. How are we going to deliver the service? Will there be complete availability of the service or not? Will the service be secure? Will there be enough capacity for people or not? All these assurances, whenever we talk about these assurances, warranty will come into play. Okay. There will be separate SLAs for your warranty. Okay. The availability criteria, how much uptime the service will have. Okay. All the SLAs will be defined for the warranty. And warranties are the assurances that the customer is getting, and warranty will define how the service is performing. For example, I gave you a Swiggy app on this platform, and you go to the app, you download the app, but the app crashes, does not works. So your utility is not met in this case. Try to understand. Okay, because the app is not working for you, utility is not met. Now I'll give you another example. The app works for you. The app works absolutely fine. No issues with the app. But in this case, the app does not work for a specific period of time. For example, if you try to order food from 3 to 4 in the afternoon, the app stops working during that 1 hour interval. So here the warranty is not met. The availability of the app is a challenge now. Despite of the fact that the app is there, the availability is a challenge now. Are you getting my point? So this is very important. So you have to make sure that the availability is there. If you talk about the service management type of support, you have to make sure that you are providing 24/7 support to the customer. When you say 24/7, it has to be 24/7. It should not be a case where no resource is there for the customer in order to receive their chats and receive their calls. Okay, so these are assurances that the service or product has to meet when we talk about the warranty. I'll also give a couple of more examples to make this point understood. Let's go to a big a toys not a toy area, I would say a big museum where you have big these rides. You have big rides in a big museum, right? You have created all those rides to lure children and people so that they can come and play in the museum. So you have met a utility there. People will come to the museum, they will have all those rides, they will be very happy. Let's say because of any circumstances, because of electricity failure, because of any power issues, etc., if the rides are there but they are not functional, this is where the warranty will be lapsed. This is where the warranty is not met. Despite of the fact that utility was there, people came, but now your warranty is not met because the rides are not functional. Okay, so try to understand this. Utility is a service or a product that you have provided, but warranty has to make sure that it is available, it is functional, it is secure. It should not be a case where the food delivery app is being hacked by some hacker, and because of the food delivery app, your complete phone got hijacked. It should not be a case like that. That app should be secure also. So we have to make sure that we understand these two concepts. Any questions before I proceed? Very important. You will have questions on this from the exam.
Allah, please give the example of utility and warranty in IT perspective.
Sure. Let me give it. Good point, Shivkant. So let's say that I'll take the same one. Amazon Web Services, right? You you try to get some services from Amazon, okay, and Amazon has given you a set of servers to play with, okay. So let's say you have got 5 servers from Amazon, right? You are, it's your responsibility to make sure that the servers are up and running. You know, Amazon is giving you a platform, right? Amazon is giving you the servers to play with. You are happy because now you were looking for servers, 5 servers you need. You wanted them from Amazon without incurring a lot of cost, because obviously cloud is cheap, everybody is going there, so you go for it, right? You are happy. But what happens is, because this is all a public cloud framework and a hybrid environment, everything is shared with a lot of clients. Somehow you are not able to apply updates to that server, and you face a lot of issues while doing that. And sometimes even the server hangs. So you spin up another server from that point of view, and same situation happens there. And sometimes even the server is not accessible with the IP address that Amazon is giving you. The server is not accessible. So here, despite of the fact that the utility has been met, utility in terms of you getting 5 servers is met, but the availability of the servers, the establishment of connection, the functionality of the servers is not there. So you're getting challenges. There you have warranty issues. Okay. And if I'll tweak it a little bit in a different way now, and let's say you got 4 servers. Somehow Amazon is not able to give you 1 server because of any constraints, but the 4 servers are functioning absolutely fine, no issues there. You are absolutely happy, man. So in this case, the warranty is met for the 4 servers, but your utility is not met completely. Why? Because you were looking for 5 servers. You were not looking for 4 servers initially. So now in this case, your requirement was not completely
उसको
fulfilled.
जानबूझ के किया है, मानो मतलब दुनिया को मुट्ठी में करने का एक तरीका है, अपना बिजनेस बढ़ाने का तरीका.
Okay? Makes sense, right, Shivkant?
Right, right. Thank you. Got it.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody can ask. No worries. Good question, by the way. Okay. We also covered service level agreement. I'll try to repeat the SLA. I've used this term a lot of times now. So we should all know what is SLA. So SLA is nothing but an agreement between a customer and a service provider. It's a set of contract, a papers, documentation. What all agreements are there between the services provided by the customer and by the service provider and the customer. What all availability criteria are there, what all security parameters would be there. So all these things will come under a SLA agreement. SLA agreement is a document which will come into play whenever you will go with any third-party service providers, contractual, this will come into play. Okay, SLA is nothing but an agreement, contract, okay, between the service provider and the customer. It's called service level agreement. Then we discussed about service offering also. So in service offering, we discussed what kind of service will you provide to the customer in targeted consumer group. How will you provide things like that we discussed. Okay, all things are covered, so I'll not repeat that. So 3 things we discussed in that. Again, important questions from ITIL point of view: goods, access to resources, and service actions. We discussed all these 3 in very detail in the last session. Anybody has any questions, you can ask me. Goods, access to resources, and service actions. Okay, we can cover them again. So very important, you will get questions on this for sure in the exam. Okay. Then we discussed output versus outcome, right? There was another discussion that we had. So output we discussed in that. Yeah. Okay. Output we discuss is the end result that we are trying to give to the customer. and outcome is nothing but the benefits that come throughout the way of delivering that outcome that the customer gets. Then we discussed about service provider, service consumer. Service provider is someone who is providing a service. Service consumer is someone who is consuming the service. Okay. Then we also discussed about sponsor, customer, and users. Different personalities and profiles. Very important. In the last lecture, you can see all that on YouTube. We covered it very detailed, so I'll not repeat it here. So quickly going through all these things and coming now to very important and new concept of ITIL4, the 4 dimensions of service management. Today we will start. A very important concept, 4 dimensions of service management. Okay, we'll briefly touch upon it, and maybe in the next lecture, if 4:30, if all of you are available, we'll discuss in detail, because I don't want the lessons to be too lengthy. Okay, so what are the 4 different dimensions of service management? A new concept which is introduced in ITIL 4, definitely questions will be there. Okay, a question could be, what are the 4 dimensions of service management? Okay. So first of all, let us try to understand what are the dimensions. Okay, dimensions are nothing but the focus areas. What are the focus areas that we should have while delivering services to the customers? What are the things that we need to be careful for? What are the things that we should watch out for while providing services to the customer? This is called a dimension. Okay, dimension, nothing but a focus area, where my focus as a service provider should be while delivering any service to the customer. ITIL says are the 4 dimensions of service management. Now, what are these 4 dimensions? Number 1, organizations and people. Number 2, information and technology. Number 3, partners and suppliers. Number 4, value streams and processes. Very important. I'll repeat: organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. These 4 are the 4 dimensions of service management, and you should know them. ITIL 4 introduces them as a concept, and you should know this as a concept. Okay, are the focus areas, as I said. So I'll cover one by one all of them so that you all understand what are these dimensions. Okay, so any questions in between, you ask me, but this is very important. You will have questions on this from the exam and even from your understanding point of view. So just to make it easier for all of you, if you will see, the 4 dimensions is nothing but people, process, and technology, as you all might be aware about this, right? When we talk about people, the first dimension comes into play, which is nothing but organizations and people. When we talk about technology, the second dimension comes into play, is nothing but information and technology. When we talk about processes, then we have value streams and processes. Okay, then the 4th dimension comes into play. And partners and suppliers is something which has been added now as a 4th dimension. Otherwise, people, processes, and technology comprises completely of this. And you can involve partner and suppliers also as a people. Okay, any questions you can ask me. Very important concept now. So I'll come to organization and people now. Okay, first dimension of ITIL 4 foundation service management, organization and people, first dimension. So what is the objective of this this dimension? What is this dimension trying to achieve? Okay, these 4 dimensions are very important, because any service provider who is delivering a service should comply to these dimensions and should understand these dimensions properly. Okay, so we should all understand it as well. So the first dimension is organization and people. And the objective is to identify the people that are required to cater to the customer requirements. Okay, what are the people, the set of resources that are required to cater to your customer requirements? What type of people will be required? Let's say I have got a new project from the customer, and it's a ERP project that I have to work on. What kind of resources will be required for that ERP project? Will come under organization and people. Do I have to find a technical person to do all the coding work? Or do I have to find a finance person to understand all the financial requirements? All these resources, understanding these resources, what kind of people will come into play, will come under organization and people. Okay, what type of people will be required, how many people will be required. Okay, so all these parameters will come under organization and people, the first dimension of service management. Okay, for this to work, you have to understand what is customer trying to achieve. You have to understand customer requirements. You have to understand customer environment. Then only you can decide the skills and competencies of the people that you are looking for. Otherwise, if you don't understand what a customer is trying to achieve, I cannot hire a support person for creating ERP project, right? And I can't hire a financial person to support the client on an application support, right? So different requirements, different skill set required, different competencies required, right? So we have to analyze, we have to understand what is the requirement of the customer. Accordingly, we have to provide resources, we have to provide people, we have to provide resources in order to meet the customer objectives. Okay, the skills and competencies have to be defined and should be relevant with the end goal. Okay, then we have to define the organizational structure. For example, let's say I create a project for a customer, who all will play what roles. Everybody will not be on the same page, right? Skills and competencies will be different. So all these roles and responsibilities will also have to be defined, right? So all this comes under organization and people. Any more examples you want me to take specifically, I'll do that. Let me know. We'll go one by one. Very important. Organization and people. We covered the first dimension. Okay. No questions, so I will proceed. Second dimension. Very important, but self-explanatory. Like I think most of us from the IT background will be able to understand this. Second dimension, information and technology. So now when I say the example of ERP project, what kind of softwares will I need? Will come under technology part. Identifying the correct technology that is required to meet the end customer's objectives will come under information and technology dimension. How can you identify? You need to have a technology understanding. What are the different tools that you will require? What are the different softwares, different applications, that you will require? How will you make sure that the data is safe? Two types of technology will come into play in this dimension. Very important. Try to understand. Two types of technology will be there. One will be the technology that is you are providing to the customer. Let's say you are creating the ERP application. You are providing that application to the customer environment for them to work on. Second technology would be the different infrastructure requirements that you are providing from your end in order to support that service. Okay, let me make it more clear. Okay, let's say I give customer an environment on the AWS. Okay, I give them 2 servers to work with for a application called SAP. So they have 2 servers. One is test server, one is the live server. They do all the testing. They work on the AWS instance. I give them the instance to work on. They have the logins and etc. They work on it, right? So this is the end product that I have provided to the customer to work on, right? But now, how as a service provider I'm supporting this technology is because I am paying Amazon. I am, paying that the usage to Amazon, and it's my responsibility to make sure that those servers keep on running. It's my responsibility to make sure that those servers come under, high availability and failover things, so that if one server goes down, the other VM picks it up, things like that. So it's my role to make sure that happens. So two types of technology will come into play. One will be in order to support the customer, the other will be to deliver to the customer. Okay, one technology will be what we are providing to the customer. Okay, and the second would be how the infrastructure that we are having, to support that. For example, let's say the VM stops working, so the customer raises a ticket, so that ticket will come to us, right? So this is a supporting infrastructure that I have to provide to the customer in order to make sure that the customer technology is working fine, right? So two types of technology here, very important. So we have to identify what are the different technology needs a customer has, and what type of information is being relayed here. If there is a personal data that is involved, then it will need a lot of security controls also. We have to make sure that we meet all the compliance requirements from customers point of view. If it is a financial data, again regulatory compliances will come into play. All these things we have to evaluate. Not the customer will not do that. Customer is only giving me a cost, right? He is not making sure that whether the PCI DSS compliance is met or not. It's Shivkant's and it's my responsibility to make sure to make that happen. Okay, as a service provider, as a security person, we should be able to tell the customer that no, these are the additional compliances that you have to meet. So all these things will come under technology, anything and everything. Okay, identifying the current, correct tools, what are the supporting infrastructure, and all the right controls in place so that there is no data breaches, no information leakage. Each and everything will come under technology. Any questions you can ask me? Very important, information and technology dimension. Okay. So the other dimension after that is the third dimension, which is partners and suppliers. Okay. Very important concept of partners and suppliers. What are the different partners and suppliers that are needed? Identifying the right suppliers and vendors and partners for any service delivery will come into play in this case. Okay. So what are the different external organizations that I have to work as a service provider in order to deliver the service to the customer will come under partners and suppliers. Okay. So these are these people who I will get help with in order to support the customer in case I need to source some laptops or servers. So these partners and suppliers will be helping me in order to help the customer. Okay, so two types of categories will come in partners and suppliers. One is partner and the second is supplier. Okay, there is a difference between them. Okay, two types of vendors, one is partner, one is supplier. There is a difference between them. From customer's perspective, okay, if there is an organization that is coming as a partner to the customer, then the accountability of service delivery will also remain with that organization who is coming as a partner. Okay, because that organization is partnering with the customer for service delivery, so there will be complete responsibility on that organization to deliver the service to the customer. Okay, second thing is supplier, third parties, contractors. So these will not be directly accountable to the customer. Instead, they will be accountable to the service provider. Why? Because these are the third party contractors, these are the suppliers who are helping the actual service provider to help the customer. Okay, so if a organization comes as a partner, then the responsibility of service delivery will remain with that organization. If not, then the service delivery will remain with the service provider only, not with that organization. Okay, I'll give you an example to elaborate this point. So let's say customer requirement is for 500 laptops, right? Customer goes to any third party vendor because anybody can take this order. Let's say ABC Corp took this order from customer, okay, but ABC Corp gave this order to HP or Dell, let's say. So ABC Corp, since it is in direct contact with the customer, is a partner in this case, is a service provider to customer. Dell is not the service provider in this case, okay, nothing related to Dell, okay. So entire responsibility will be on this service provider to make sure ABC Corp to make sure that they meet the requirement of the customer. However, okay, I'll change the scenario now, and in this case, HP or Dell also comes, along with the ABC Corp for this requirement and come to the customer as a partner. So in this case, the delivery of the 500 laptops will not only depend to the customer but also to the partner, okay, if they are directly coming in contact with the customer. So this is the difference between these two. So it entirely depends upon the service provider strategy, because sometimes it might be a case where the service provider will want to introduce an additional partner, so that in order to reduce the risk, because every new project will involve a lot of risk as well. So if it is a new endeavor for the organization, they would like to introduce a partner as well. So people do that intentionally also. Again, point of strategy from customer side. Okay, this all will come under partners and suppliers. Okay. Any questions you can ask me? So I think we should stop here, because this is a lot of stuff to digest, and I think you should all go back and maybe rewatch this video once this is public, but yes, there's a lot of concept to digest, and any questions I am here to answer, even with the last lectures also, whatever we discussed. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, I'll answer. No questions, huh? Okay. So,
Like, I'm going to save this video in Google, right?
yeah, this will be YouTube public. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, I think we should stop it here. And should we have another session at 4:30 today, or shall we keep it for tomorrow? Because all of you are here, so let us, discuss, right?
4:30 is fine, yeah.
4:30 is fine, huh?
Yeah, 4:30 is fine, love.
Okay. So, all of you fine for 4:30, huh? For the next session?
Yes.
Okay. We'll keep it at 4:30 then today. Okay. Cool. Thank you for
Thank you,
joining.
love.
Thank you.
Thanks, love.